On a rainy evening in November 1971, a man walked into an airport carrying a briefcase. He bought a one-way ticket under the name Dan Cooper. Nothing about him seemed unusual. He was polite, well-dressed, calm, the kind of passenger nobody would remember. Yet within a few hours, he would commit one of the most famous crimes in American history. A crime that remains unsolved more than 50 years later. After collecting $200,000 in ransom money, he jumped from a passenger jet into the darkness and vanished. No one knows whether he survived. No one knows where he landed. And no one knows who he really was. This is the mystery of D.B. Cooper. On November 24th, 1971, a man boarded Northwest Orient Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon. The flight was scheduled to travel to Seattle, Washington. The journey was short, only about 30 minutes. The passenger identified himself as Dan Cooper. He appeared to be in his mid-40s. He wore a dark suit, a white shirt, and a black tie. Nothing about him raised suspicion. After taking his seat, Cooper ordered a drink and quietly waited for the flight to take off. A few minutes later, he handed a note to a flight attendant. At first, she assumed it was a phone number. She placed it in her pocket without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her and calmly said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note." When she opened it, her heart sank. The note claimed Cooper had a bomb. He asked her to sit beside him. Then he opened his briefcase. Inside were several red cylinders connected by wires. Whether it was a real bomb remains unknown. But at the time, everyone believed it was. Cooper explained exactly what he wanted. $200,000 for parachutes and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. The airline immediately contacted authorities. The FBI became involved. Meanwhile, Cooper remained remarkably calm. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't threatening passengers. He wasn't acting nervous. Witnesses later described him as polite and composed. As the aircraft continued towards Seattle, officials scrambled to meet his demands. When the plane landed, the passengers were allowed to leave. The ransom money was delivered. The parachutes were delivered. Everything happened exactly as Cooper requested. Then the real mystery began. With only a small crew remaining on board, Cooper ordered the aircraft back into the air. This time, he gave specific instructions. Fly south toward Mexico. Maintain a relatively low altitude. Keep the speed slow. Leave the rear staircase accessible. As the aircraft crossed the dark skies of the Pacific Northwest, Cooper prepared for his escape. The crew could not see exactly what he was doing. They only knew he remained in the rear section of the plane. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light indicated movement near the aircraft's rear stairs. Shortly afterward, Cooper disappeared. Somewhere over the wilderness below, he jumped into darkness, into rain, into freezing temperatures, carrying a bag filled with cash. When the plane eventually landed, Cooper was gone. The largest manhunt in FBI history immediately began. Investigators searched forests, rivers, mountains, remote wilderness. Nothing. No body. No parachute. No briefcase. No trace of the hijacker. The mystery only grew deeper. Who was D.B. Cooper? And how had he disappeared so completely? The FBI spent years investigating thousands of leads. Hundreds of suspects were examined. Former military personnel, skydivers, criminals, adventurers. Yet none could be definitively linked to the crime. One major question centered on whether Cooper survived the jump at all. Some investigators believe survival was unlikely. The conditions were terrible. Heavy rain, strong winds, freezing temperatures. Rugged terrain. Cooper had jumped at night into unfamiliar wilderness. Many experts argued he simply could not have survived. Others disagreed. They pointed out that Cooper appeared knowledgeable. He understood aircraft. He understood parachutes. He seemed prepared. Perhaps the jump had been carefully planned. Perhaps he landed safely and escaped before authorities arrived. Then, in 1980, the mystery took an unexpected turn. A young boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sand along the Columbia River. While playing near the riverbank, he discovered something unusual: several bundles of cash. The serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper. For the first time in years, investigators had physical evidence. But instead of solving the case, the discovery created even more questions. How had the money reached that location? Had Cooper died nearby? Had the cash been buried intentionally? No one could explain it. The discovery remains one of the strangest pieces of evidence in the entire investigation. Over the decades, countless theories emerged. Some people believe Cooper died during the jump. Others believe he survived and lived quietly under a different identity. Several suspects became popular among researchers and amateur investigators. Yet every theory eventually encounters the same problem: a lack of proof. No suspect has ever been conclusively identified. No confession has ever been verified. No definitive evidence has ever emerged. In 2016, after more than 4 decades of investigation, the FBI officially suspended active efforts to solve the case. The mystery remains open, but investigators shifted their resources elsewhere. Today, Cooper remains the only unsolved skyjacking case in American history. More than 50 years have passed, yet people remain fascinated by the story, perhaps because it feels impossible. A man hijacks an aircraft, receives a fortune in ransom money, jumps into the night, and disappears forever. No fingerprints that solve the case. No confirmed identity. No clear ending. Only questions. Did Cooper survive? Did he spend the ransom money? Did he quietly live out the rest of his life? Or did he perish somewhere in the wilderness shortly after jumping from the plane? The truth may never be known, and that is why the legend of Cooper continues to capture imaginations around the world. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are not about what we know. They're about what we never find out. If you enjoy unsolved mysteries, strange disappearances, and real-life investigations, subscribe to Story Vault Studio. Because every story has a secret,